As Charles Darwin said, the species that will be here tomorrow is that one which is the most adaptable. Not necessarily, as you might have been told, about the strongest or the fittest. It really is about the most adaptable. Are you adaptable? Are you going to be here tomorrow? Will your species survive? That's what I'm talking about with XtremeAg, the next generation of XtremeAg, in this very special edition of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. This episode is brought to you by Teva Corp, providing farmers with the most technologically advanced products and innovative ideas to meet their quest for higher yields, top quality, and maximum profit. Visit tevacorporation.com. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic special episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. We're doing a 4-part series. We did this a year ago. We're doing it again with the next generation of XtremeAg. Anyway, we're talking about adaptability. There's a lot of changes coming, and it always happens. Every industry is going through changes, and every industry will tell you, oh boy, the pace of change is greater than it's ever been. Well, maybe, maybe not, but that's not just a thing in agriculture. It's a thing everywhere. We might be losing atrazine. We might have glyphosate, the world's most used herbicide, taken away from us. We've been in an economic downturn now for about a year. 2024 was the first bad year after 3 of the biggest years in agriculture we've ever seen, 21, 22, and 23. Adaptability. What are you doing to adapt? What are you going to do to hang around and be the species that survives? That's what we're talking about. I'm going to lead off with my friend Vern. Vern, you're the one that liked this topic. Are you adaptable?
I like to think we're adaptable. You know, like you said, whoever is most adaptable is going to survive, right? I mean, a lot of things are changing in the industry, like you just said, and we've got to be able to pivot. We can't be married to anything, right? We've been raising corn and soybeans for I don't know how many years, and lately soybeans haven't been profitable. So we're pivoting away from that. We're looking for replacements. We're doing different things. We're making more money in cattle, so now we're putting more land use to that, right? And then we're always trying to diversify the business, right? We added the direct-to-consumer meat business. We added some other businesses along the way. You know, we're just always trying to be that. If it's survival of the fittest, we want to be the fittest. Yeah,
those are economic adaptations, which obviously is the key, of course, to being here on being in business. All right, Alexander, adaptability.
Kind of touch on what Vern said too. Is like this year more than any, I feel like we're more adaptable just because of the year we had last year and the drought and everything that we went through. You know, this year we kind of took a step back and was like, okay, so maybe if we don't front load everything and we kind of, you know, apply it as it needs it throughout the year to try to cut back on money and save money, I feel like that made us better for the future. And then another one is like this year we don't have any wheat. So me and Dad sat down and we were like, look, we got to average, 80, 90 bushel wheat just to turn a profit. You know, why would we do that? And we've been growing wheat for years and years and years. We usually did, between 1,000 and 1,200 acres of wheat every year. So kind of like stepping back and realizing, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. Let's kind of take another turn and see what happens.
Adaptation doesn't mean necessarily trying new things, which it does. It also means stopping old things that didn't work, right?
Yeah,
that's what I heard right there. Caleb Coots, you're not a farmer. You work for Teva, your family's business. You're the 3rd generation Teva Ag. Are you adapting?
Well, sure. I mean, you can't stay stagnant and continue to succeed. My grandpa's always said that farming is a roller coaster, and if you don't like roller coasters, you shouldn't get on. So, I mean, that's been the name of our business since day one. We've been helping people adapt. Our job is to, hey, we see this coming down the pike. This is what, you got to change your mindset. Think of some new ways to do some things, because that's how you're going to succeed. So, no, we've been. That's all we do over here is adapt. We're always looking at what the next big thing is and how we can help the farmer the most, because without the farmer, I'm not in business.
Jackson, 1 or 2 big adaptations you're seeing at Henderson Farms in the last 2 years. What are you doing? What are you looking at and saying, okay, this is kind of a big change, and it's probably a good thing we're making it? Give me one.
Well, ours would be like on cutting back on products and changing products that has like lower use rates as far as the fertility side, you know. And then even on like maybe some corn, we're trying out now some skip row corn, just trying different directions on see, what can save us money here and there and what can be better on putting less profit into that acre,
Yeah, cutting back on the spend. And so we're going to have to adapt. Okay, let's talk about, since Jackson took me on this road, Layne and Danielle, you've been farming the longest. which is to say you're the oldest. I'm not sure. Alexander's kind of right there with you, but let's go with Danielle. We might lose glyphosate. Secretary Rollins is against it. That's Secretary of Agriculture, that is. They brought in Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy. He's got a real thing against glyphosate. The world's most used herbicide. It has been used since before you were born. In mass, starting in about 1994, 5, 6 is when it became the big thing. What if glyphosate is taken away from you? Are you going to be able to adapt?
We won't have a choice but to adapt, but it's not going to be easy. I think it's one of those things too, like we see it coming on the forefront. We know there's a possibility they could take it away. So it's also our job to advocate for them to keep these products that we need. But that also goes along with where Caleb said on the mindset. We have in our mind that we have to use glyphosate. So do we need to backpedal and look at what other options can we use?
Yeah. So the point is, what do you think at Matthews Farms? Are you already adapting? Are you already saying, you know what, this is coming down the turnpike? Did you do anything this year where you cut back or stopped using this herbicide?
Not on the glyphosate. I mean, we do rely on it for our crops here.
Vern, did I hear from Kelly? Did I hear from Kelly that you're already off the atrazine habit, right? Thinking that atrazine goes away. You're off the atrazine habit?
Yeah, we've moved to some other residuals. Yeah.
Okay, but you're still using glyphosate.
Yeah, we still use glyphosate.
Okay, what are you gonna do to adapt if that gets taken away from you tomorrow?
We can switch to different herbicides, different. There's other options out there, but who knows if they're going to come for that next. We're talking about experimenting this year, seeding out some cover crop before the corn canopies, something that has a low growth, just to try to keep that, prohibit that weed from being able to come up. Just always being able to try new things and experiment.
Layne, I'm just going to take a guess here. Just 4 years of observation. It seems like you're more willing to try and adapt to new things than your old man. Is that an accurate statement? Exponentially accurate statement?
Well, I you can listen to this at some point in time, I think.
I don't know if he'll ever listen to it, so it's fine.
I don't know. He's been pretty good at adapting.
Because if usually he tells Layne, that'll never work. Nope, that'll fail. And then a year later he says, if Layne hadn't talked me into this, I wouldn't have done this. So I'd say that you're the adapter down there, not him.
That's probably the answer is yes. They're gonna take Roundup, they're gonna take atrazine, and he's gonna oh my God, what we're gonna do? But I mean, all we can do is use what we got. I mean, if it fails, it fails. It's gonna take a while to figure out exactly what's gonna work, whether or not it's cover crops like Vern said, or finding other residuals or whatever. I mean, we ain't gonna have a choice. I mean, if you don't think that you're gonna get through it, you might as well quit, because if you can't get through it, then you ain't gonna have a farm left.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's one of those deals. I mean, just toughen up, Buttercup, I guess.
All right, Caleb, you deal with a lot of farmers. You're not being critical. You're being honest. Where do you see failures to adapt and evolve that you think this is costing you an incredible amount of money? You're not being judgmental. You're just is your customers or not even your customers. Where is the failure? I see it. I can look at small businesses, and I'm not being mean, and they'll say, well, you know what? You've never run a dry cleaners. I said, you're right, but I also know what a balance sheet is. You've got a failure by not understanding the financial aspect of your business. I can look at these things, and we can. Where's the failure?
I think the most common problem we run into is people wanting to do work on their planers. This is the most important piece of equipment they have on the farm, and either not wanting to update or not wanting to look at things they can do for better placement, like infro or 2x2. There are very few things in farming that I would tell you are almost a guarantee on, your return. And like 2x2 is one of those. And to get people convinced that they should be doing that kind of stuff, I mean, that's a big hurdle. That's a lot of money. I don't want to put it on there. They're set in that this has worked and I don't want to change. And I think that if they could get past that and see that, I mean, it's one of the I think Dad says there's only 3 things he guarantees in farming or a return on, yield, and the 2x2 is one of them. I mean, so if they could see that, if they would just bite the bullet on it, they would, all right, yeah, let's give this a go.
Yeah.
But that then spreads to everything that we work with. It's the whole liquid side. I mean, the majority of farming is still, not really into this strategic placement thing. That's why XtremeAg is as successful like it is, because these are people that are willing to adapt and willing to look at new solutions, and they're ahead of the curve.
By the way, I'm going to ask everybody these questions, so get prepared about because it's always easy to see somebody else's failure to adapt that's costing them and not your own. Except for when I get to Alexander, I'm going to make him take it about himself. I'm going to tell him he has to pull the mirror up and look at himself and say, where are you not adapting? Because it's finally the part where he's making decisions down there and out there in Maryland. I mean, it's about time. Hey, before I do that, I want to remind you, I'm holding it on my phone right here. And if you are not watching, you can watch this show on our YouTube channel. Go to the XtremeAg YouTube channel, hit subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. All of our stuff is always at XtremeAg.farm, but we are really branching out. We've been doing this now I've been with these guys for 4 years. They've been doing it for 5 years. Videos they shoot on farm to help you farm better. All free for the taking. Hundreds of episodes like this, Cutting the Curve, to help you farm better. Experts talking about new things that are happening in agriculture. It's all there. Also, our show, The Granary. This show, this one you're listening to right now, brought to you by our friends at Teva. You can go to XtremeAg to learn more. That's Caleb Coots and his father, Mark Coots' business, and it was the grandfather's business before that. They are proven fertility solutions for today's farmers. Go to TevaAg.com to learn more. Check it out. They can help you far better. All right, Alexander, what are your neighbors not adapting to that's costing them money? And if you want to give names and addresses, that's fine too. We're not judging.
I feel like a lot of people, and I know it's everywhere, but I talked about it earlier a little bit about, front loading a crop. I feel like everybody is so worried about front loading a crop and putting so much fertility out front and then not knowing what it's going to be on the return side. And I feel like that's probably the biggest struggle, is getting these people to understand it. Like, look, if you put out, you put out a little bit out front, that's perfectly fine, but don't put all of it out and just wait, willingly. Oh, let's see what's going to happen. But whether as you give a little bit out front and then you see what that crop's going to do and you spoon feed it throughout the year. I think that's the biggest. And like I touched on earlier with the drought last year, we're glad we didn't front load a lot because, we hit the drought and crops can't take it up if there's no water. So that was probably the biggest thing around here is people front loading a lot of their fertility and not throughout the year.
Layne, they always thought I was making cracks about the southern accent that maybe comes out of your father's mouth. He has never spelled water W-U-R-H-D-E-R, water, like the people in Maryland. I thought they were sophisticated out there in Maryland, but honest to God, I've never heard anybody other than them call it water. But that's it. Different story, different day. Jackson, adaptations that you think are not being made that should be. You're looking at it with 20-something-year-old eyes, and there's your Grandpa Mike, and they're saying, you know what? Here's the next evolution. What is it?
I would say, in our area, we're one of the only ones that does strip tilling. A lot of people won't do that. And then also just on your common stuff like your fungicides and stuff, a lot of people don't want to take the time, especially our neighbor stuff, to, make that extra pass. Go out there when they don't have to spray something just to, give it that extra push or give that extra yield. So I would say that, it's just people being laziness or not going further than just putting seed in the ground.
I'm trying to think about Danielle a year or so ago, and she's going to have a little bow. If she'd have told Garrett, my water broke, he'd say, something broke, but I don't know what the hell she's saying. Take her to the hospital. Something is broken. Your water broke? What are you talking about, honey? What is this thing? Evolution, I think it's not just adapting by making some of these changes. I think I read this once, and I thought it was the smartest thing ever. It said, you want to make small changes, change what you do. You want to make big changes, change how you look at things. I think that's the big one. Danielle, evolution of how you look at things. Is that something you're good at?
Sometimes it depends on what it is. If I can visually see something, it's a lot easier than just like in a picture in your head. So for us, like something we've recently done is pulling the yield maps every year. We farm a lot of patches. We don't have those big fields like Layne does. So there's a lot of fields that we have that are 10 acres and less. So pulling those yield maps, we were visually seeing we were making no money on those outside rounds. So after 3 years of talking data into it, we pulled off 5 to 10 foot on some of those fields. And those fields are actually making money. We're not just wasting the money on the seed on the outside round, planting it right up against the tree line. But a lot of our neighbors, they do still plant to the tree line because they have limited acres, so they feel like they need to plant every inch they can get.
Yeah, the problem is that extra inch, you're putting the input in, and you get essentially no output,
Nothing.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Evolution of thinking, Vern. You come from a pretty entrepreneurial background over there. I'd say that that's not a challenge. Is it a challenge for you guys? Evolution of the way you look at things and think about things?
I think that can be a challenge, in a year like this year where things are getting tougher. We've been relentlessly expanding over as long as I've been home, right? More acres, more cattle, more custom applied acres, more trucking. And I feel like we should just try to buckle down and make money for 1 year rather than putting all that money back out and make sure everything's going to get through. I think that's one of the challenges we need to adapt to this year and really buckle down.
All right, well, that brings me to the thing.
Year.
We'll go over here to Layne and ask that one, because a lot of times if I say the word evolve and adapt to the average person in agriculture, what's the first thing that farmers love to think about? That means to them, evolve and adapt to them means expand, because that's what ag's always done. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Bigger equipment, next size combine, next size tractor, pick up another chunk of farm ground when it comes up. I agree with Vern. I don't think evolve and adapt is the same as expand at all. It could be, or expansion could be a tool within that, but I think we got to change our mindset, because as long as we think evolve, adapt equals expansion, I think we're getting into a debt cycle that a lot of farms are going to end up being perpetually underwater, and I don't think it's going to be healthy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I was throwing at Layne. It was kind of just a gentle toss out there to Layne. I figured I'd get his comments on that.
You said Layne, and then I was like, oh, am I supposed to answer that? Or
I don't know. It's more just a comment. It's almost like we're sitting there in a granary drinking a beer, and I was just one of my big thoughts, and I just want to sit back and sort of soak in my own brilliance for a minute.
I mean, you couldn't hit the nail on the head anymore, because, I mean, this dog has been beat to death. I mean, we got to try to learn to do more with less. I don't know that continuing getting these acres is the answer, because I can tell you this has been one of the most stressful years I've ever had in my farming career, which is somewhere around 10 years now. It's more land, it's more people, it's more equipment, it's more of everything, and it's extremely stressful. And me and Dad's had this conversation: can we take 60% of what we have and be here with yields, but yet be up here and be a little bit more? That would be the goal, because I mean, what we're doing now, and it's all got to do with the economy, and just in our area, we've had several farmers that didn't make it. A lot of smaller farmers, a couple of big farmers. Well, all of the bigger farmers get asked to farm it, so we absorb all this. So we go from here to here to here. I mean, we took on probably 30% more land this year after the first of the year.
Yeah.
So land that we didn't even know was going to be available,
right.
and it's next to horrible, honestly.
It's next to horrible because it threw a bunch of stress, and it wasn't even like you had anticipation. So you had your runway was a little bit shortened, right?
I don't know. I saw those soil tests. Layne may be right.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, there could be a reason for that stress. Alexander, you're chuckling. The mindset aspect of it. You're now getting to where you're involved in the decision making. Adaptability. A lot of times they think, oh, that means bigger. I'd say not at all. So what's your next adaptation? What do you now got? When you got Temple's ear, what are you saying? I think we should evolve this direction. What are you telling them?
I mean, I don't know, because we have old stuff, like all of our equipment, not old, but we just make do with what we have, and we upgrade the computer systems in it and the, just say section control and all that stuff inside of our older equipment instead of spending, millions of dollars on newer stuff. And I feel like some guys probably fall short of that, maybe. I don't know. But I feel like making what you have work and work better is better than just throwing it up and taking it to the scrapyard and going to buy some new John Deere paint,
By the way, if you've never kept up with XtremeAg, this is an ongoing thing, and Temple obviously has gotten to where he's passed this mindset down to Alexander. To hear them talk, Layne and Matt have, when the ashtray gets full, they change the combine. But
that wasn't to pick on anybody. Though. I wasn't trying to pick on anybody.
But Alexander and Temple would have you believe about every third episode I record with him, Temple talks about how he's got a bunch of old equipment. He would have you believe he's got a 1964 Minneapolis Moline out there attached to a mule. I'm like, it's not that bad. I've been to your place. You're not out there with with a hoe, for God's sakes.
Oh, they'd have to work on that hoe.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. What's the next adaptation that we need to make? We can talk about the products. I got to be honest with you. I just released an episode of my Business of Agriculture about the high cost of a glyphosate ban. So trust me, I'm not. But I saw the restrictions on animal antibiotics come through, and I heard the hog farmers and chicken farmers all say that we're going to lose money. We'll know, and all of a sudden there's less antibiotics in the drip lines of the chicken feed and in the chicken houses. I think that we'll be fine with the glyphosate. I don't think that's our biggest adaptation. It'll be some pain, but I don't think that's our biggest one. I think our biggest one is going to be when we finally realize we don't need obviously any more acres of soybeans and corn because we're too damn good at growing what we can. I think our adaptation is going to be understanding of the thing that Layne's talking about, scaling. Maybe there's a need to scale back a little bit because we're so good at making stuff. I think that's going to be our biggest adjustment.
Well, I mean, if you look at the like the WASDE reports and all that, I mean, every time you look at them, which this year may be different when hopefully Vern and them get a drought, we'll all make more money. But when you look at that, I mean, every year yields go from here to here to here to here. I mean, and obviously the person that Damian's going to say this, the person can't see you in your video. You have to say when you go and you keep stair stepping up, and yield just keep getting more and keep getting more and keep getting more. You're not seeing the prices follow that because we're making. They don't need to buy all this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have to learn that we're making better crops, not just XtremeAg, but this entire country.
Yep. Danielle, is that right? What's the biggest adaptation Ag's going to have to make? I think the tools being taken from us are going to be it'll be a pain point, but I don't think it's going to be a backbreaker.
I think, like Layne said, it's going to be the economic side of it, is learning, we're the only industry that's told how much money we're going to make for what we do at the end of the day. We don't get to set a price. So it's going to be adapting to what that price is and how can we make it work with our budget to make money at the end. Because if we don't make money, you can't keep farming.
We get told what we got to buy our inputs for, and we get told what we get to sell our crop for. We have no say so in none of it.
Right.
All right, Caleb, you're nodding your head. What's the biggest adaptation that everybody on this call is going to make? Their dads are going to probably stay in the game for another 5, 10, 20 years, but they don't have as long of a horizon to worry about the evolution that they got to go through. What's the evolution that everybody on this call is going to have to go through?
I think that we're all going to witness as we enter the biological era of farming. I think that we're moving a lot, as we see some of these chemical options disappear, and I don't know that I think they're there yet, but someone is eventually going to figure out the biological side of this, and we're going to be able to see, a natural weed control. We're going to be able to see someone finally crack the infixing bacteria. Those kind of things are going to be where we're pushed. If we can't use chemical, which has been the answer for the last, 20 years, where are we left to go? And that the natural realm is the only way we're going to go. So I think that we'll see efficiency and then more natural sounds bad, but or not right. Biological answers or natural or not synthetic.
But editor's note, asterisk, it's not just been 20 years on the herbicide front, Caleb. It's been probably 60. But every really post-World War II, from the 50s, when we started getting usable and useful and herbicides, but then I'd say the 50s to 60s is when it hit its fever pitch, obviously, because we finally could do this. All right, Mr. Jackson, adaptation, evolution, where agriculture is going. What's the one thing that I agree with Mr. Caleb, that we're going to get better biologicals, there's going to be less harsh chemistry, less synthetics, there'll be less fertility, synthetic fertility, which is because the bulk of what we fling out there doesn't get absorbed anyhow. I can make a prediction: less synthetic fertilizer, less harsh chemistry. and a few of the products we currently use will absolutely not be here in 2 years. 3, 5 at the most.
I don't know what to say. Like, is that a question or like?
I don't know. I was kind of a Katie Couric on the Today Show. She would never actually ask a question. She just rambled on for a while and then like smiled. And I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that, Katie? Anyway, what do you see as an adaptation that you see at your perspective that you think maybe even your old man doesn't see? What's coming down the pike?
I mean, I agree with everybody. I think we all kind of in the same boat as far as the economic side and stuff we use. But you know, just to change it up a little bit, and after the economic side, I would think it'd be maybe the prices of equipment or the technology that's coming. You know, like how do we have to keep up? Because stuff ain't gonna get cheaper, even if we keep making more. Like prices of equipment and just the stuff to use, like, you know, like auto track and everything else, the simple stuff. Everything goes up every year, and you got no choice but to buy it. Or let's go back, you know, 20 years and let's go back to hand driving it and doing the best we can. You know, so that would be, I would say, the biggest thing coming after the economic side of it.
Alexander, am I missing anything? We're going to close out with Vern. We opened with Vern. We're going to close out with Vern about the adaptability.
I like that one. That was good, Jackson. I was just thinking of like John Deere when they're going to start doing prescriptions now for auto track and stuff like that instead of just buying the whole year, whatever. They're going to start splitting it up into prescriptions like per acre and stuff like that. That's what made me think of it.
When I actually look at the generation yours and where this goes, I'm hopeful that there's almost a refusal to accept the agricultural business model as it essentially has been for the last 60 plus years, meaning what we just talked about. Go to the retail, buy more crap and have high levels of debt. And the answer is make more stuff. And at some point we're going to say that this isn't working. That's what I wonder. Vern, am I right here? Is there, and I know it's going to be a tough nut, but I think at some point somebody's got to say, yeah, this is kind of a broken business model.
You buy this much NP and K and you get this much yield back. It's all just an equation, right? And that's diminishing. That's falling off as our soils were destroying the biology that would have provided a lot of that nutrition itself, because we're trying to take over and fight against Mother Nature rather than working with her. We've got to find that balance between efficiency and resiliency. And you provide that. You provide the fertility, so then the soil's not working for you, and then you end up with pest problems because you've screwed up the way the crop grows, and you have more vegetation than reproductive, and that crop can't defend itself. And you got to clear off this land to make more cropland, and you're killing your diversity. You're losing your natural predators for insects, right? Iowa State had a study that the more diverse the landscape is, the less insect and disease outbreaks you have in crops, because you have that diversity. Yep. And it's tougher for one pest to come in and take over. And so, I mean, to tie all that together, expansion, diversification, and efficiency, profitability, right? My grandpa always plant up as close to the fence as you can and back into the corners as good as you can. I want to farm every acre. I don't want to farm every acre. I want to farm every profitable acre. Yeah, right. And the more we can do that, and rather than going out with chemical, relying on diversity of species and crop rotation to break up these disease and pest cycles, I think that's a lot better deal. You spend less money, you make more money.
We heard two people on here talk about you don't have to farm every acre. Danielle said you're just spending money on inputs that you never get anything out of in that 5 feet next to the woods. And then we just heard the same thing from Vern. See, you guys are already having an evolution of mindset. And I agree with everything you just said right there. Also, the adaptability, the monocropping, which leads to then greater pests, which then leads to I have to purchase more stuff. This has been great for the companies that sell stuff.
Exactly, 100%.
And so I think we're going to have to see a little change in that. Well, I heard from the XtremeAg. That's Jackson Henderson, Vern, Garrett, Caleb Coots, Alexander Evans, Layne Miles, Danielle Venable. We're going to do a series of these, 4 of them, sponsored by our friends at Teva. Go to tevaag.com, learn more about their line of fertility products. That's Caleb's company. We really appreciate them doing this. And if you like this, because you like hearing from Ag's Next Gen, XtremeAg's Next Gen, that is, go and check out the 4 episodes we did and released in 2024. It's a great little series we do. I'm really grateful to be joined by these folks. I like to say they keep me young, and everybody here does, with the exception of Vern. He's kind of an old soul. I feel like when I hang out with him that it's like going out. I never really had a grandfather, so I feel like if Vern and I could start fishing together, he could be the grandfather that takes me fishing that I never had. Anyway, until next time, thanks for being here. That's XtremeAg. I'm Damian Mason with XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. Very special edition of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve, that is.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.